Welcome to the Successful Nonprofits Podcast. I'm your host, Dolph Goldenberg. In our conversation today with Francesca Giulia Mereu, we are going to be talking about the power of small habits. Sometimes, friends, it feels like we just don't have enough time, enough energy, or enough, frankly, emotional well-being necessary to be at our best, or even sometimes to feel like we can even do our job well. And that is the reason that I realized Francesca needs to come on the podcast. She has worked with very driven and very passionate professionals and leaders across the globe for over 25 years. In fact, Francesca coaches senior leaders of international organizations who need to perform under pressure. She published the book, recently republished a new version of the book, Recharge Your Batteries, which of course is available on Amazon. Now, let me also just share with you a very little bit about Francesca personally. She was born in Florence, Italy, which, by the way, one of my favorite weeks of my life was spent in Florence. She left there at the age of 19 and has lived in various countries over the past 4 decades. She speaks 5 languages, loves drawing, and has a great sense of humor. There's one other thing I have to share with you. Francesca and I have sent multiple emails to each other over the last several months. And whenever she sends an email, she also sends an amazing, beautiful picture of somewhere that she currently is. And every one of her pictures is just a breath of pause and relaxation where you stop and you're like, oh, there's something about it that's truly refreshing. So with that, Francesca, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Dolph. And thank you for mentioning the power of mini images, mini breaths through a visual interaction. That is, I think it's a great introduction to the power of small habits.
Yeah. You coach people who are overstretched. So talk to me about some of the types of issues that you deal with when you're coaching people who are overstretched.
Yes, Dolph, there are 2 kinds of overstretched. One is the business overstretched, that is more the worlds we tend to know. So fast-paced, highly driven business context within a stable country, within a more or less clear organization and a physical safety that is given for granted. And then there is another part of my work where I coach a humanitarian in frontline or war zones where they lead a team and the context is very different. Highly unstable, physical safety is not given for granted, their team and their beneficiaries are at risk. So when people are stretched, I would say we're all humans. The humanitarian negotiators show the extreme version of what we experience every day. A sense of doubt, am I really doing enough, especially towards the team? And there's another pattern to almost put aside their own needs and a wish or a desire to find bigger supportive solutions for others stakeholders, others their team, others their beneficiaries. So these 2 traits, looking how can I support the others because I'm a leader, because I'm an entrepreneur and started this company, and by definition being overstretched means that I start to be tired, so the person starts to be tired, and there is no obvious big solutions in terms of resource or time. Otherwise, they would find it because these are very smart and very driven people.
That's where I really want to dig in because you're 100% right. The work just keeps coming and keeps coming at you. And I think that's true whether you're dealing with a humanitarian crisis or, you're a mid-level manager. There always feels like there's just more work than you can do. And I know this probably is a good segue to talk about energy and those 5 batteries, but how do we help ourselves and help others not feel overstretched when we can't control the quantity of work?
The first step as obvious as it sounds, it's like common sense, not common practice, is to know your own and to know our own level. What is overstretched? Because overstretched for you can mean certain events are going on. Overstretched for me might mean very different events that would leave you perfectly cool and fine. So first is knowing what is more likely to stretch, drain a little bit my own batteries, and what is more likely to recharge me. And this is why I put together this framework, because the first step is self-assessment. Where am I in my, what Dan Siegel calls window of tolerance? Am I fine? Am I a little bit okay, but tired? Or am I at the limit? And if this continues for 2 or 3 days, I will start to make decisions not at my optimal. I might make mistakes. So first step, self-awareness. Where am I in the continuum of totally recharged and totally drained?
Got it. And so I'll share with you, actually, I took your assessment at energy.pem.pm. And one of the things I was struck by is some of the very simple questions that it asks. And it's clear that those simple things add up to something so much more than just those individual questions. And so, for example, I think there's a question that I think might have actually been asked twice, but in a different way. Do you wake up feeling refreshed and well rested on a scale of 1 to 5, for example?
Yes, that is very perceptive. I asked it twice because the very human physical basic of our ability to focus is sleep. They've done a lot of researches with military, sleep deprivation, and the equivalent of drinking alcohol in terms of ability to focus compared with sleep deprivation. So I asked twice because one, it's around the quantity, and the other is around the quality. Very similar, but it is to reflect, do I sleep enough, like 7 hours? Or do I sleep 7 hours, but it's not really restful? And what you pointed out that is very accurate, some are really grandmother common sense, once again. And as you pointed out as a third point is they compound. Because it's not only sleeping, it's not only have a rewarding job or somebody to talk or a meaningful role. It's the smaller or longer term. Some are big, more like, do I find my work meaningful or do I feel appreciated at work? That is quite a chunk, but they compound and they interact. Sometimes it's easier to say, what can I tweak that is already obvious and under my control, instead of looking immediately at, for example, the spiritual battery that is more alignment with values, or for the humanitarian negotiators, the social battery, the context of our energy. They will not change. They choose to work like I imagine people involved in non-profit in a challenging context. So that it's a given. So based on that, where can I go?
I'm going to guess those are the small habits you're talking about. When I took the assessment, there's probably 50 to 75 habits there. If you were to choose the top handful of habits, small habits that we should be thinking about, what are they?
So when I put together the framework with the 5 batteries, the first idea was that somebody realizes, okay, my energy is not just a big chunk. There's a physical energy, a mental energy, my ability to engage, clarity of thoughts, emotional energy, self-regulation. The 4th battery is the spiritual energy, the alignment with my values, the motivation, my beliefs. And the last one is the social battery, the context of our energy is our relationships, is our surroundings, where we live. What is more recurrent in what I hear my clients and my coaches choosing in terms of mini habits? One is around the cluster of physical habits. there is a point where we thinking humans realize and remember we have a body. And without the body, I can push myself for a while, but the while is very short. It's a short while. So many habits around the physical body, and usually somewhere around the sleep, that is more, I would say, the more current. And there has been a lot of very good work and very good articles to point out sleep is key. Something is around movement, and movement is not exercise. Exercise is longer and is very focused. Movement is the amount of time I stand up, sit down, turn during the day. So increasing the movement.
Again, I recall from the assessment two things about movement. One, there was a question that asked something like, do you get up and move at least once every hour? Which admittedly, I don't. I will admit it. I was like, oh no, I can't say 5. If I'm lucky, I can say 2 or 3. But then you also ask, do you sit for more than 7 hours a day, including commuting time? Which I will admit, I mean, I probably am sitting for 8 to 10 hours a day and I don't commute.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So this standing and sitting is based on studies on astronauts at NASA, because it's actually a mini cardio workout. And they've done it because without gravity, the muscle loss it's important. So they were trying to understand how to prevent this. So we have gravity, and this is why our muscles work. So already standing and moving even to stand up to take water will provide some difference in posture, and also prevent the fact that we get fixed in front of the computer, a bit like a frozen penguin. And I find myself in the same frozen penguin posture, with the head slightly forward and the shoulders a little bit hunched inward. So this is what I mean with the penguin posture. The fact that more and more of us can choose where to put the computer, or to find one of these tables that goes up and down. And is not to say that sitting on the floor or standing all the time or sitting all the time is better. Is the fact that we have the same posture for a number of hours that usually, as you said, is quite consequence. So
I wanted to ask you about that as well. I noticed in the assessment, it asked me, do I spend more than 7 hours a day of screen time? And I'll share with you, I actually had a question in my head about it, because I know it said include phone, etc. So for example, right now you and I are talking on Zoom. I'm assuming that counts as screen time as well.
yes.
And I see you doing a thumbs up. Yes. Okay. So, oh my gosh, like if my work time counts as screen time, I'm on a screen almost the entire time I'm at work. So I'm probably at between work time and home time, 10, 11, if you count TV at night, 12 hours in front of a screen. What are some of those small habits that can help us cut back on screen time at work?
So what can we do? Well, as obvious as it sounds, first is to put a reminder, because when I'm working, I tend to forget the time. I'm looking at my screen, I'm writing, or I'm coaching with video calls, and so is the same for most of us. So just a reminder that, again, some breaks can help. Very, very common is the 20-20-20 rules. That is, every 20 minutes, look for 20 seconds at any object that is at least 20 inches far. What I will do is I'll put a reminder with a picture of nature. They've done researches that even looking at nature, at a plant, at anything that is natural and is not man-made, can relax us, or at least it's appealing. Another one that goes with a physical battery, put the bottle of water or whatever you tend to drink far away So you need to stand up and go there. This will already change what we are looking at, because to look in front at a flickering screen is tiring. It's tiring for us. And the last remark is that our eye muscles are linked to our neck muscles and our shoulders. So very often what we naturally do is with two fingers next to your eyes on your temples, you massage your temples, or sometimes some people massage between their eyes. This helps simply to relax the muscles and avoid the sense of frozen penguin I was mentioning before, where the tiredness of the eyes start to travel down the neck, the shoulders, and that is a drainer.
Nice, nice. So the other piece I want to make sure we also talk about some is, I know in a lot of your coaching work, you're helping your clients deal with the emotional side of their work. And so I know there's some things that you do, like gratitude and labeling and, the mental side of that work. Can we talk about that for a minute?
Probably the first is acknowledging that it matters. Again, very driven, passionate, determined people usually get on. Okay, fine. I mean, it's like this happened, even if it's a big happening, we need to move on. If it's a small happening, we're not going to get stuck with it. So there's a tendency to put it aside, put it inside, put it outside. So the first is to notice that some of this, again, friction, small, repetitive, or random, have an impact. And it's okay, because we are pack animal. I'm just reading a book that is stressing with neuroscience how much stress is regulated with our context, within our social context. So sometimes there is a tendency to say, I need to be totally autonomous, and no matter what happens, hey, I'm fine within myself. This is very true within certain limits, because if I'm very, very fine, I'm a sociopath. I don't care what others are feeling. So emotions, acknowledging, it's a small drainer, as a recurrent drainer. And then is mostly two big groups. When I am upset, or there's something that touched me, whatever way, what are my strategies alone? So more introvert. And that's the second cluster, what are my strategies extrovert, that connects me with the others? Not obviously connecting, it could be going to a concert. It doesn't need to be talking. And when I say introvert, does not mean nobody talks to me. It could be I'm cooking for somebody. So ask ourselves, okay, this is happening. What can I do within my total control? More introvert, I do it alone. And what can I do that put me again in a bigger picture? And the bigger picture, as you mentioned, that's very true, can be helping others, can be gratitude, can be movement. And this is where the mini habits starts to synergize, because we are just one person. So even moving in fresh air, or if somebody has a pet or a dog and a forest, ideal, go out with the dog, with the beloved dog in a cherished forest, will be great. If the person does not cherish the dog and does not like the forest, I would say listening to music or talking or reading, totally fine. So I would say these are two, acknowledging that, yes, emotions matters. They give the color of our life. And these two big clusters of recharging behaviors.
Mm-hmm. I know sometimes we just get stuck ruminating on something though. Like we just don't seem to be able to let it go. It gets in our brain. We wake up in the middle of the night having an argument with someone else who's fast asleep, enjoying their night's sleep, but we're not enjoying ours. Like, how do we break that rumination?
Yes, thank you, Dolph. This is a bigger question. And so I will share some directions because this is the kind of questions that is usually answered, it depends, you know. So, most obvious, I would say, is there anything left to do? Because sometimes I can ruminate about 30 years ago. Great, it's gone. So, is there anything to do? This is one direction. So let's assume there's not much to do. Then there's another two directions that you can say, you can ask yourself, what can I do to help myself letting go, but not mentally, in a way that is through my senses or is metaphorical? Because very often rumination, I would assume, is something that you intellectually know that is rumination, is not helpful. So if I intellectually know that, okay, I've been thinking this for X time, is not by telling myself this is ridiculous, it's 2 a.m., what am I doing and why am I thinking again? Trying other two ways. One is through my senses, which is, okay, how can I quiet my mind? And this, we're talking visualizations, the little tip of hot herbal tea. Can I do a progressive relaxation of my body? And the other is more the emotional part, where it's very similar to how we tend to react when a friend of ours ruminates and comes up and say, I've been thinking again about this event. We tend to be much more compassionate towards others. And we wouldn't say, oh, come on, it's the 15th time you're telling me this. So it would be okay, fine. What can I tell myself? Yes, I did my best. Yes, there are some sides I am maybe not very proud. And this is what you mentioned around the labeling. That is a technique. So what am I feeling? And ultimately, after this too, comes the question, would it be good if I talk with somebody that I know is able to empathically welcome me and both help me move on? There was this emotional freedom technique, EFT. It is tapping acupuncture, specific pressure points. So it can be done without words. In my book, I mention a visualization where there's a reframing. So there's a lot of tools. And I would say when rumination starts to pop up, the question is, who can help you? Which trained practitioner? And I use them for myself. Very useful NLP-based technique, very good. Sometimes it's against our will that we want to ruminate. Does this answer your question?
That does, and it's very helpful. Thank you, Francesca. I know we are almost out of time, and I want to take a moment and play two truths and a lie with you. And I understand you share with me you've seen this in movies, but never actually played it. So I'm looking forward to playing with you. If you could share three, I'll put it in air quotes, facts about yourself, and I will get to guess which one is not truthful.
Okay. Yes, I've seen it in American movies. So one is I love spiders. Another one, I don't like pizza. And the third one, I love gelatos, ice creams.
Hmm. I could see all three of those being true. So this is difficult for me. I'm going to guess you do love gelato because, oh my gosh, who couldn't love gelato? Um, but I'm going to guess that you actually don't love spiders. You dislike spiders. That is going to be my guess.
Actually, no, I love spiders.
Wah wah. I got it wrong. Okay.
Yes. Yes.
Really? Okay. Well, hold on. So real quick, tell me about your love for spiders.
I find them cute.
Wow.
In Victoria, on Vancouver Island in Canada, there is a museum for insects. I found out, and I rushed there, and they allow you to hold, this very airy, big.
What we would call tarantula.
Yes, they're big. Yes, thank you.
Yeah,
Yes, in
yeah.
English it's the tarantula. Yes, and they're actually very fragile, but they're so soft, like that furry little creatures. And I was delighted.
Wow, that's awesome. So which of those two is a lie?
It's the pizza.
Oh, okay. Wow. All right. So you do like pizza.
I do like pizza. I
Okay,
don't
got it.
adore pizza, but I do like pizza. I don't drink coffee. But pizza is fine. Within my Italian heritage, I would say gelato definitely. Pizza, I wouldn't say I don't like pizza.
Good. That's awesome. That's great. Well, Francesca, thank you so much for coming on. And I want to make sure that our friends who are listening can know how to find out more. And so, friends, the online energy check that I've mentioned a few times, you can go to energy.pem.pm, and there you can take an anonymous, no email tracking assessment about how you care for your energy. It will take you about 10 minutes, and then you can download a debriefing report so that you can look at your scores. And by the way, also gives you some ideas about some mini habits you could create so that your energy goes up. Additionally, Francesca also has a private LinkedIn group that I have joined. And so in that group, it can help you sustain the motivation and learn new tools and ideas for, again, increasing your energy or keeping it at a really strong level. And then finally, as I mentioned in the introduction, she has her book, Back Out. And I say back out because it's the new revised version, Recharge Your Batteries. And that is available on Amazon. Francesca, thank you so much for coming on the podcast today.
Thank you, Dolph, and to all of you, many, many thriving, growing, blossoming habits.
Thank you. And friends, if you liked this episode, there's two more you should check out. One is episode 215, Take a Deep Breath with Jay Johnson. And the second is episode 177, The Secret to Low Stress and High Efficiency with Susie Heyman. That, my friends, is our show for the week. I hope that you have gained some insight to help you and your nonprofit thrive. I'm not an accountant nor an attorney. I say it every week, that what that means is that neither I nor the consulting practice provide tax, legal, or accounting advice. This podcast, come on, you already know it. It's for informational purposes only, and I hope you got some great information from it. But you should never rely on it for tax, legal, or accounting advice. If that's what you need, please don't turn to a podcast. Don't even turn to a friend who's not licensed. Instead, find a licensed, qualified attorney or accountant in your area and get the help that you need.